right, so we're at 10 o'clock, so I think we're about to get started. This is an overview of the University of Utah's Central Support Team for Educational Technology, from transactions to learning experience.
Very good. And transforming interactions into meaningful educational journeys, kind of the subtitle there. I'm John Thomas, Director of Digital Learning Technologies, and this is my Associate Directors, Holly Johnson and Adam Stewart, who will be presenting with me. Well, we wanted to start out today by kind of going over our organization, just so you have an idea of kind of the scope of it. So I'm going to start on the right side there. Systems and data services. By and large, we're supporting all the educational technologies of the university, including Canvas and all the Canvas add-ons. We have Adam, who's over the AV and Technology Services. And so we have AV install, equipment checkout there. And Holly Johnson over Outreach and Innovation Services, who's over the Adobe and teaching technology trainings. So, I'd like to talk to you kind of about a journey that we've been on. And it starts 15 years ago when we, probably actually 17 years ago, when we reported to the library. And we get some new leadership in, and we're changed. They say, oh, look at this group, this is their education technology, where should we put them? Oh, let's put them with undergraduate studies. Okay, so then we're with undergraduate studies, and then a new provost comes in. He's like, oh, what is this group doing over in undergraduate studies? And puts us into continuing ed with that group. And then a new provost comes in. He's like, what is this group doing? Continuing ed, and puts in UIT. And we're just hoping that we never get a new provost at this point. But no, I mean, many of us have experienced this reorganization. And when you reorg, a lot of times your values are kind of changing as you go. What are the priorities of that group? And one thing that we've been able to do, being under UIT, is set a little bit more of our own path, destiny, priorities. And so we started saying, okay, where have we been? Let's identify where we are. And we looked at it and we said, well, we're very transactional, right? We get these requests in, these tasks, we do them, we get them out, we do a pretty good job of that. But there does seem to be something missing. And so we looked at kind of what we felt was missing. One was that we seemed to be very siloed in our teams. We'd get involved in our tasks and we'd get them done, but there wasn't a lot of cross-department collaboration inside our department or across the university. Fragmented user experience. It kind of depended who you talked to, the level of service that you're going to get. And so that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is sometimes you had to come back to us multiple times to get something, the whole project done. Not always, but it just wasn't consistent. Sometimes where's my invoice? Oh, well, we're going to get to it, and but there was not kind of a standard process that we were following every time. And so there was a need for a more holistic approach, taking that long view. And so we started looking around at a few different models. I remember we talked a little bit about agile project management, some of the same things. Maybe we need a different project management system. We tried to experiment a little bit with that. But we did have some expertise on our team in something called design thinking. And we started to talk about what if we took an approach, a design thinking approach to this. And fortunately for us, there was a field of design thinking called learning experience design that seemed to fit really well. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that, what learning experience design is. Learning experience design is a learner-centered approach that aligns people, processes, and technology to improve outcomes. And that's a very simple definition for it, because you could say there are a lot of things that we do that seem to do this, but I'm going to try to describe what we saw specifically in this approach that seemed to be really useful. One was that shift from transactions to learning experiences, and I wanted to highlight a phrase here. Let's see if I can get, okay, I'll just point. Okay, meaningful learning experiences. So we started to focus on that phrase, meaningful learning experiences. That's what we're going for, right? If our transactions, if our ticketing system doesn't get to meaningful learning experiences, then all of this is for naught. Like, we need to be focused there. And this helps to guide us a little bit. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. The holistic learner journey. So one of the things that we had done for a while is personas, identifying what the personas were. And that does come out of kind of that design thinking approach. A lot of different approaches use that. But one thing that came out of design thinking was this idea of journey maps. And we really like this idea of starting to identify what is the story that is being told here. And can we influence that? So LXD defines clear purpose, and it defines these meaningful learning experiences. And one of the things that we loved also is that we started to have a shared framework, a shared vocabulary for talking about these things. So it gave us a shared vocabulary in our department where we could start having discussions about what the service was that you're delivering and how we define that service from the customer perspective, how we define it from the end user perspective. It gave us a framework to depend on. So it wasn't a new thing every time we got in a meeting. Other things that we loved about it, continuous improvement through feedback. That part of this wasn't just delivering those and completing those tasks, but consistently asking for feedback, saying, did we do a good job? How do we know we're doing a good job was a phrase that we use frequently. How do we know we're doing a good job? How do we show it? And then a unified approach for measurable impact. We start to talk about what are the things that really matter to measure, and it comes back to these meaningful learning experiences. So often when we start to measure, we just look around and we're like, what numbers do we have, right? What's the easiest thing to measure? Okay, there. Okay, let's report it, right? That can be problematic if those metrics that you pick go against meaningful learning experiences. Let me give one example. So frequently we would report how quickly it took to resolve tickets, right? And that's a pretty standard thing. But what happens when resolving tickets becomes how you're measured for your job, and it's not necessarily creating a great customer experience? Sometimes our customers were fine having a longer ticket as long as it got done, right? And by saying, okay, how quickly did you get it done? We're actually going against a meaningful learning experience, and we were contradicting ourselves, and it was causing problems. So a unified approach means that with design thinking means you start at what that meaningful learning experience looks like. You start to really define that. Sometimes it is not quantitative, meaning sometimes you can't measure it with numbers. Sometimes you have to go talk to the customer. Sometimes it's qualitative. Sometimes you have to do a survey. Sometimes you have to sit down and do a focus group. So it isn't always that quantitative data that you're looking for. And if you can make sure that it aligns with what you're really going for, then you have a better chance of achieving that. So I just mentioned, let me back up one other thing that I wanted to mention here, is that one thing that design thinking really focus on that is kind of a paradigm shift is that so often we'd go into a project and say, what are the requirements? What are the customer requirements, right? Very standard. Okay, these are the customer requirements. We get done with the project, and we go to and we say, we've done the requirements. We want you to sign off on it. And they're like, I didn't want that. You wanted that. We documented it. We spent a few weeks with you doing this, right? This is what you wanted. No, I didn't. I didn't want that. And what we realized is sometimes, and I think we've all felt this, sometimes the customer doesn't know what they want. And one thing that design thinking does really well is it says, this is not a unique phenomenon. This happens all the time in design. People can be very certain about what they want until they see it. And then suddenly, oh, no, that's not what I was thinking, right? And so one thing that design thinking does is spends a lot of time on the front end of that and saying we need to be a lot better at understanding what the question is before we move on to getting the specific requirements and solutions. Now that slows down the process, and I get it. Sometimes it's not possible to do, and frankly, we're not we're not doing this all the time. So sometimes we have requirements that we just have to do from an operational perspective. But where possible, we'd like to start bringing in some aspect of starting to question the question, right? Starting to identify what is the question we're trying to answer here, and then proceed to solution design. All right, so let's talk about some other aspects of this and look at some actually practical examples. So here's our systems and data team. We're pretty nimble team. We have an LMS manager, support specialist, software developers. We have a QA specialist. We have a software administrator. This is really a systems administrator. I should have put that. And then kind of look at their key responsibilities. Again, Canvas and Adobe administration, kind of any online tool and management, Canvas LTIs, Canvas support, software development. These are the tools overall that we support. Some of these are basically curricular support. For example, we don't oversee M365 deployment, but we do trainings on it. We ensure that it's being used in curricular uses and things like that. So we do support aspects of it. Same with ChatGPT, university-wide, but then we look at opportunities for curricular use there. So how did we apply this framework in the sense of systems and data? Well, one thing we implemented was the monthly community of practice. What that was is basically bringing all of the Canvas admins together. We have about 350 Canvas sub-account admins. Those aren't top-level admins. Those are managing their own sub-accounts. But we realized that many times that the information they were delivering was getting out of date, and this was becoming a problem. So we said, we need to form a community of practice where we can get that feedback loop coming back to us. We can understand what the front lines are experiencing. We can also let them know what the roadmap is. We can give them the vision for where we're going. And this has been an amazing initiative to try to get that information back so that we can improve our services. Embedded feedback loops refers to always asking at the end of a ticket how we did. I think the key about feedback loops is frequently we were looking at the number, just the number. Okay, percent satisfaction, great. But we're starting to say with embedded feedback loops, hey, when somebody leaves a comment, they've taken the time to leave that qualitative data, let's look at that too very carefully, right? Let's understand where people are having real pain points. Because as we all know, when somebody goes to leave a comment, a lot of times they are frustrated, they're saying, this is what didn't work, and so how can we fix that? And then shift to partnership and co-design. Another opportunity we saw is our teaching and learning governance portfolio. This is a group of faculty across the university that come together once a month. And they had largely been a group that would oversee our allocation of student computing fees and discussions about that. And we began to shift to say, what this group needs to be, and what we want you to be, is we want you to tell us what services we should be delivering. And whenever we have a change to service, we want to bring it to you and say, hey, we're thinking of this change. You're going to be our advisory group, right? So again, frontline customers were trying to get that information out. The part that I think that we still need to do better and that we're looking at is what I said earlier, those focus groups. I'd really like to begin looking at how do we get that difficult data collected and evaluated. One thing that we all know AI does amazingly is take this qualitative data and provide summaries, right? And as long as you have enough, you have to feed it enough so it doesn't hallucinate, right? But when you feed it enough, you can get some really good summaries out of this. So the idea of using some of that qualitative data to really get good summaries that you can use, I think is kind of the next step in this. And with that, I'm going to turn the time over to Adam.
All right. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to our AV and technology services team. So you may be wondering why we add the technology services. It's kind of generic, kind of a catch-all, because it's two teams, and these teams do AV, but we're also supporting online tools as well. So that's kind of why we had to throw that technology services in. But first, we have our AV and installation and maintenance team. So this team I have them pictured here, but this is kind of a dated photo here. I'm happy to report that after 3 years of funding requests, I think, we finally were able to add a 4th member to our technicians this year, and that's helping out a lot. We've been able to bring a lot of projects in-house because of that. We also have our manager who's over project management, as well as inventory and billing, and just overseeing the team in general. And our systems admin, who is doing our base code restaurant programming, but also providing that desktop support, taking care of our servers, and network cybersecurity, basically for the whole DLT department. And this team is doing all the installation projects. We do work with vendors as well, so kind of have we try to do as many in-house as we can, but we do have some with vendors. And then we have one team member that's dedicated to doing AV incident and ticket response. But the whole team chips in on that when it's needed. All right. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Okay. All right. I just want to give you an idea of what we're dealing with on this team. So we're responsible for 250 general assignment classrooms. These, and the way we define them here on campus is basically the registrar. If it's scheduled by the registrar's office, it's available to all students, then it's GA. And then we essentially fund the AV in those spaces. And nearly all of our GA spaces are BYOD. We don't put podium computers in our spaces. There are podium computers in some of the departmental spaces out there. And then the AV equipment is DLT owned, which means we purchase it, it's on our inventory. We have to inventory it every year. We have to replace it when it needs to be replaced, all that kind of stuff. And then I just wanted to give you an idea of the amount of projects we're doing and kind of the funding structure. So fiscal year 2025, this was probably more than we would typically do. We basically finished up our backlog this year over that year from COVID, right? So we did a lot more refresh projects than we typically would. We're typically funded to do about 30 to 40, but we did 49 that year. So GA projects are funded through student computing fees. So there's been a student computing fee in place since the early 80s probably. And I don't know, maybe 12 or 13 years ago, the CIO worked it out so that we could basically take right out the top, get a certain amount to cover 30, 40 refresh rooms every year. We also have learning spaces, escrow projects. And so this is for if departments want to request funding for their space. This is also funded through student computing fees. So I think John mentioned this committee that we have. It's made up of faculty and different admin from around campus. And departments submit proposals, and then the committee goes through the different proposals and awards the funds. And then that's put into an escrow account under our domain, and then and then we use that to pay for the projects, and we schedule them all out basically at the end of the fiscal year for the next fiscal year, right? So we let all the customers know like an estimated date, and we can't do them all at once. We have to like spread them out through the year. So it's a long cycle. So you're basically requesting funding for the next fiscal year. So when you put the request in, you're probably not going to get your installation done until like late into the next year or so. But it works. And then for higher projects, so these are departmental spaces, and basically if they're not covered by one of these other funding sources, we basically just bill for the labor and for the parts and equipment straight to the department. And that's all paid for, like we use a chart field, accounting system that's all paid for internally. All right. So AV standards, our AV standards initiative is probably the biggest initiative over the last decade with our department. So prior to, or our department within the AV section, prior to 2014, we had many different types of systems. I'm sure this is a familiar story to everybody. But we had a lot of IR controls. We had Niles pads, Zantac. I was talking to Andre, our systems admin, earlier. He was telling me he's been here since '94. They used to like solder. Was it garage door openers? Yeah, they'd actually use like garage door openers for which I didn't know that until today. You just mentioned it. I thought that was kind of cool. So we wanted to provide a consistent experience for all of our users. So we ended up deciding back then to go with a Crestron UI and Crestron equipment. So we have a standard UI that we're able to provide in all the classrooms. I think we started out with just DMPS, but over the years we've added some designs with RMC if it makes sense, if it's a very simple system. And then the last few years we've been doing more and more MBX systems, especially if it's something that you need a matrix switch for, we just automatically will go with an MBX system. Let's see, so this, we're just starting on our third cycle right now. So 2019 we did the complete refurb of all 250 classrooms. Then we had the COVID lull, right? And then we were just this year able to kind of finish up our second round of classrooms. And that second round really focused on camera system. That was a big part of it, is putting camera systems in all the rooms, because during COVID we just put up I think at Lona cameras. And we just had a remote in all the rooms, and we were able to tie it into the system. So the second round of refurbs, we were able to go in, tie the cameras into the system so you can control them actually from the system, and then make sure that every room has a camera system in it. And that's like a BYO and OM camera system, right, UC. Okay. All right, and then we have our class and event support team. So this team is made up of a manager and a supervisor, and then we have a part-time staff of 14, and it's a pretty large staff, but we have them doing a lot of various services. And I'll talk. We actually combined. These used to be separate services. I'll talk about that a little more in a minute. But we combined them all into a single team. So we provide service desk. We're providing AV support, but also for the online tools. And at level 1, so we're defining level 1 support as basically any like operational support, right? So are you pressing the right buttons, for classrooms? Can we give you a knowledge article? That type of stuff is what we're handling at the service desk. If it's like major troubleshooting, we're gonna escalate it to level 2 and have one of our techs look at it, or have one of our Canvas specialists look at it. Let's see, and then we're also doing AV equipment and check on delivery. We do video capture, so we'll send camera operators to classrooms, much like Keaton back there. And then we also handle live streaming. We don't do a ton of live streaming, but we live stream all the graduation ceremonies, that kind of thing. And then there'll be a handful throughout the semester. And we use Kaltura for all of our on-demand recording, like video playback, I guess you should say. And we use Kaltura live streaming for all of the live streaming services. Video conferencing support used to be, there used to be a lot more demand for it when we were using Cisco codecs. We would actually have facilitators stay in the space the entire time. Since we've switched to Zoom rooms, we typically are just being asked to provide light up service. So we'll have somebody come up and just help the instructor get set up, but it's usually not necessary for us to stay in the room the whole time. But we still have a handful of programs that are doing a lot of like IVC video conferencing classes. Event services, we do full audio support, so we'll go, this is from our student rec center dedication. This is really old, like back in 2015. But we'll set up a PA, run sound, camera, do recordings, all that kind of stuff. So we do a bit of that here and there. And then this team also handles classroom maintenance visits. So we try to visit each space at least once, hopefully twice a semester, and do just test everything and do some like light cleaning, things like that. So that was the class and event support team. And the interesting thing about this this team, our model here, it's changed a lot. Prior to 2019, we were providing a lot more like full services, where we're showing up doing the recording. We're providing, like, we have somebody in the room providing support the whole time, that type of thing. And during COVID, everybody got used to providing their own video support on their own, doing through Zoom. Through Zoom, Kaltura, all that kind of stuff. So it really started moving on our campus towards a self-serve model, and we just really weren't seeing the requests for recording and things like that we were before. So it was really hard we weren't really able to give enough hours to our people. So what we decided to do was combine everything under the service desk and have the service desk kind of be our home base. So we can have people work service desk, and then when we have requests, we can send them, we can send them out to do those requests. But then they could, if it's only like 2 hours, and we need to give them more work time, we can schedule them at the service desk. And it's been really nice because we're able to provide like a one point of contact for everything. So it's good for the user. But then we're also able to provide much more cross training for our students, so they get a wider variety of activities, on their shift. Let's see. So. Sorry, I had written down something that I wanted to. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I'm spacing on what I had a point I wanted to go to, but yeah, and so that has been a good experience. The challenges are it's a lot of different tasks to be training the team on, so we have to do a lot of shadowing, so that's the biggest challenges. We've kind of gone from having specialists in these different areas to kind of being more generalist. But we really have to rely on our more tenured student employees that have been there longer to help train the newcomers. So there's a lot of sorry, So anyways, I'm gonna move it on to Holly now.
Am I supposed to remember?
Yeah, I've been up for like 3 days, so I'm kind of like, I'm a little frazzled, guys. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep it all together. But yeah, so now I'll hand it over to Holly to talk about her section.
So, and then this, I turn. Look at that. Okay. Hi, I'm Holly Johnson, and I get to work with this wonderful group, and we have some of our team here. So we're a new team. We basically, in the past, we had instructional designers. Those instructional designers were working on with MOUs with different departments and colleges. And so in those shuffles that John was talking about, we ended up the instructional designers stayed with continuing ed, and then we came over. So it's like, okay, what do we want to build with this team? So we have 2 learning experience managers, and those 2 managers are Tamar and Tony. And Tony is up running the Creative Commons up at Callert Village. And so on Friday, if you're here for the tours, that's near the guest house, so we'll be providing tours there. Tony has 5 students that are creative consultants, and really their focus is on Adobe. And so really what we're doing is we're upskilling our students, faculty, and staff, which is great to see the outcomes. And then Tamar has been out at our Harriman campus that we share with Salt Lake Community College, and there we have a digital learning center. And so Tamar has been integral as far as that partnership between a community college and with the University of Utah. And what's great is that she's brought in faculty from both areas and have been able to coach them as far as how do you use Adobe, but also why and what assignments would be good. We have Melody Carver that's joined us. She's our instructional technology. And between Melody and Tamar, we've integrated in a Tech Tips Tuesday, which is once a week. It's for 1 hour, and it's online. And for 30 minutes, you learn the tool, and then we provide a little bit of demo from that, and all those recordings we have access to in Media Space. And then we have Jareth Archer, and the thing that was really important is how do we build this system? So we have ServiceNow, we're getting in tickets. Well, what's the rest of our system? And also, how do we know we're doing a good job? So Jareth has been integral into taking our team, moving all to the Microsoft area as far as project management. So he's been project management, but he also set us up with communication through Teams. We also set up program management through Teams and tracking how we're doing as far as our consultations, how we're managing our product. So that's been great. And he's also been pulling the data so that we can look at it weekly. So we're not waiting until the end of a semester. We're really checking in on how we're doing with that. So that's the team. And so these are our proud numbers that we have received. If any of you are in Adobe Creative Campus, they have a program that is Adobe badging. And what we're calling that are those creative skills. We're also calling it durable skills at our university. This is how we skill up our students, and this is also available to faculty and staff. They do these little micro-credentials, and so on that, it's self-paced. It's about an hour and a half learning, say, what are the ingredients that go into a presentation? So yes, it is using Adobe Express, so it will touch in on that. But really, it's giving them the lay of the land. So also what it takes to do podcasting. What does it take to do social media? So it's not, in a lot of ways, that badging is really what's the recipe that goes into these different multimodal assignments. And we're setting up our students with success for when they go into other classes, but also when they're putting their portfolio together before they leave. This is something that's great because they can put on their LinkedIn. And as we know, when the students start out, they're like, I don't have anybody on LinkedIn. It's like, well, this is great. This is how you're starting. So we provide, Adobe provides a badge through Credly, and then that goes on their LinkedIn. We've also embedded these micro-credentials into competitions. We have had a social impact challenge that we've done with our business school. We've been doing that for 6 years. And we partner with a local, we had some nonprofits. Last year we were working with Red Rocks, so our gymnasts, and this is a project that goes to these students. They have 1 week to come up with a plan. So this was how do they attract different vendors and sponsorships, looking at what the gymnastic team is going, how they want to proceed. We've had 65 tech trainings and workshops. So this is where the team has gone out, is working in the medical school. We're working with nurses. We're working in pharmacology. We've also done workshops. This has been a huge endeavor where Tamar has created a relationship with university marketing. So in the past, university marketing, they created their work, and then everyone, all the different departments could create their own ads and whatnot. So what university marketing has done is used Adobe Express to create templates. So what's helpful as far as within the hospitals, you think of their outreach, they're in clinics all over the state. And so how does the marketing team pass them along to what are the logos, what are the brand, and so it's really just a plug and play for them. And then it's also brand consistency. So that's been really exciting. So with that relationship that Tamar made with university marketing, then moved into the hospitals. And so how do they deliver that? And then we moved into academic affairs. So if you think about all those different teams with under that, they're creating their own promotion for, say, the Benyon Center, alt breaks, community engagement. So we've been out doing workshops on that, and Tamar teaches them the basics of Adobe Express. What are those tools? So that's been exciting. And Melody has been a part of really spearheading the Tech Tips Tuesday as far as how do we introduce all these tools instead of here's Canvas, here's Pull Everywhere, here are these different tools. It's more or less asking them, well, what's the experience you want? What's the experience you're coming with as far as understanding these tools? And what's the experience you want to create in the classroom? So once again, we're going back to learning experience design. And then we've done ed tech consultations. So we have reoccurring people that are coming back and saying, okay, I've learned this new tool, what's next? Or they're asking for, I've learned the basics of this, how do I move on to what are the next steps? So that's been really exciting that we've had these consultations. And so within here, once again, I talked about experiential learning partnerships. So this is where we partnered with Adobe. This is the business school, and we had over 100 students competing in this event last year. And what's great is they learn the micro-credential, they create a presentation, and then we have jurors from the industry, and they come in and talk through the presentations as far as giving the students feedback. And then we have recognition. So we have those badges that we're promoting. The other thing is that we don't want to forget about our staff. Our staff are really integral as far as keeping this entire ecosystem running across the university. And so how do we scale up our staff, right? They're doing so much of the load. So what are the tools that they need to learn? Adobe Creative has been a part of that. And then we're an Adobe Creative Campus. We were one of the first, and some of you may know that John Warnock came from the University of Utah, the founder of Adobe. So we were recognized a year ago. There's 138 global campuses, and that keeps growing, which means a creative campus, they're offering Adobe Express to all students, faculty, and staff. And then also they're digging into the Creative Cloud. So in this, we were selected as the first 9, one of the first 9 creative campuses to be telling our story as far as what we're doing. And then another story, let me see if this is on this one. Okay, just back to this, Creative Campus achievements. Tony Sams, who's running the Creative Commons, they have started Snow Dance. And so this was just a passion project of Tony of how do we get our students out there, film snow sports, right? So we did that a couple of years ago. There were 3 films. The students got really excited. Well, 3 years later, we just filled our Utah Museum of Fine Arts with students that were there to see 11 films that students created. So really, they're learning from each other. They're sharing out. I don't know if any of you remember the Warren Miller films that everybody would come to. Well, it was exciting to see the UMFA filled, and I didn't see students on their phones. They were all just in it. So how do we meet students where they're at, right? They have a life beyond just the classroom. So how do we integrate that in? We also, so we've done the Social Impact Challenge, then we have that. And so as I said, we have the Tech Tips Tuesday. So this was really important. We have a live session, and then we have all the recordings that we've put into media space. And then we have this sustainable learning ecosystem. So once we've introduced faculty and staff to these, now they're sending other people. So we're seeing that, a lot of it is word of mouth. You can put out marketing till you're blue in the face, but once we're providing this learning experience for our faculty and staff, how do we keep them coming? And then this was an exciting opportunity. Tony is right here with our superstar students. And this was AI Symposium. Now, we're always talking at the students. We wanted to hear from them. So this was about how are they incorporating AI into their work. So maybe it's a classroom project, maybe it's a passion project where they're developing an app or something else. So this was our first AI Symposium this last fall. This year, we are growing that. And then in the 3rd year, we're hoping that this will become a statewide for higher education where we can have all of our students coming in and telling us what they're doing with AI. So, so once again, that's the experience, but what's the student experience? What are they taking away and learning from them? So from that, and just really quick, I wanted to mention, this is Niels Floor. He's in the Netherlands, and he created this learning experience design class or course. And so what was great is this was aligned with these cards, and he found us by seeing our cards. We've developed this collection of design cards, and we're going to be giving away 3 packs. Basically what this is we've taken Fink's and Bloom's taxonomy. We moved into, instead of really a hierarchy, having them think about the different types of learning. So analyzing, applying, caring, evaluating. And what's nice is on the back of these cards, it tells you analyzing what is it, and then what are all those verbs that you can do. So, and then these coordinate with activity cards, and so you can write your goals down, and then on the activity cards, those correspond with how do you take this type of learning and what does that look on an experience card. So those all match up. Now the exciting thing is that we started using AI to load this in and then take a photo of this and say, hey, I'm in kinesiology. what would be my assignment for this, and then how would I assess this with a rubric. Done. So it's so exciting to see that we have these cards that you can play with, that you can interact with other faculty, and you can use AI with this. So we're pretty excited about these cards. So with that said, John, outcomes and impact.
Yes. So this is really where we're starting to focus. We do have some data that I've been talking about that we've collected, but there is an interest in how do we know we're doing a good job. We mention this almost in every meeting we're in. How do we know we're doing a good job? And the important thing that design thinking and learning experience design kind of signifies to us is we need to be looking at those meaningful learning experiences. That's what we're going for. That's what matters. How do we know that we're doing a good job in doing that, right? And if we can focus on that overall mission, then we can start to achieve things. So, as Adam pointed out, we now have 250 plus classrooms that are standardized. We've gone through 2 cycles. Great. What is that? What does learning experience design say to that? Is, and this had been mentioned, I think, earlier in the week, is that standard is now being revised fairly frequently, right? We're always revising that standard. It's a standard, but once a year we're going out and saying, okay, what additional technology do we need to start adding? What do we take away? That didn't used to be the case. When we started out, we were just saying, okay, this 5 years, it stays solid. We're having to be more agile in continuously improving that standard. Okay, innovation through practice and partnership. Holly mentioned 65 plus trainings delivered annually. In general, we're looking kind of like twice a week to be delivering some kind of training. If you overdo it, faculty quit attending. If you underdo it, then you don't have training. So 65 plus we feel like is about right where we need to be. How do we make those better, and how do we make these communities of practice that I talked about effective in changing our practices? And then a shared LXD framework aligns teams to deliver consistent learning experiences. So the one I wanted to say there is that, yes, we're doing this in our team, but how does that then, there are problems in higher ed. We all have decentralized structures in higher ed, and we have to deal with that, right? So how do we deal with that? And one thing that, as we begin to think about this, is how this spreads across the university. The accessibility project on our university was one of those key moments where we started to say, we have so many groups that are just replicating work, doing the same thing. Let's get together and let's identify what that looks like, come together around a plan, and make sure we have leadership backing to start spreading this communication out. And that was a kind of a watershed moment of saying, how do we focus on that end goal, that end purpose, and to create meaningful learning experiences for those that need accessible content, and how do we align that at the top level of the university? Sometimes you have to, in that case, we have to punch up a little bit to get that that message being delivered at the top levels. But it really can't be any other way when you're talking about something as large as Title II. So we're thinking about how do we keep doing that with other projects. Now that we've kind of set the groundwork, and those partnerships are developed, how do we start doing that in other areas? And I think that's it. Any questions? Yes?
Yeah, when you are cycling your equipment, is it pretty much every 5 years for like projectors and control systems?
Yeah. We try. It flexes a little bit, but we 5 years is what we say. That the general access classroom list also changes quite a bit. So all of a sudden there'll be like 10 rooms gone, but then a new building comes online, so there's 15 new rooms. So the numbers kind of flex a little bit, but we try to keep it as close to 5 years as we can.
Are your 14 part-time staff, are they work-study student employees, or?
They're not. Most of them are students. We do have a few that, either they've graduated, or sometimes we hire part-timers that aren't currently going to school, but most of them are students. But yeah, we're not currently doing any work-study.
And I related to that, your part-time staff, what does that look like?
Oh, for the creative consultants.
Mm-hmm.
So they are also students, and so we have, Tony's focused on you know, it's always evolving, right? And we're always trying out new things and seeing what's needed. So on those, we're hiring this next year for specific roles. You're going to be social media, you're going to be outreach. So, you know, everybody will be well-versed, but having them really specialize on an area for outreach. And then the programming. So they're in Creative Commons. It's about a 2,000 square foot space. And you know, it's like you know, Genius Bar. All the geniuses are the students in there. So a lot of them are bring your own device. There are also, there are 8 desktop computers in there and lots of screens for presenting and lots of whiteboards. So it's a really active space. And what's also really special about CalArt is you have 1,700 first-year students that are living there, and they're from STEM, health and wellness, and community engagement. So once again, we have those amazing partnerships. There's also honors, and that's right next to us. So we get this flood of really interesting students that are coming in, and it's like, it's the new generation, right? So you'll have a group of students that are studying together that are kinesiology, physics, geography, and they're all studying together, and that's so exciting. So as far as what our students are doing is they're just breaking in, making sure that it's a great space to interact in. So yeah, so that's the creative consultant. So we have changed our format, so we have them for a year, so 2 semesters, and then we'll have them then reapply for that position going forward. So, you know, and so Tony Sams, if that's also something you want to talk through, Tony Sams, I'm not sure if he's here, but we can have you talk to him about the students that we have. And a lot of them are coming from our design area, they're coming from our architecture, they're coming from the graphic design, and then film and media studies. So, yeah, so it's a great group of students.
Oh, and real quick, I'll mention the Adobe Creative Commons will be on tour
Yes.
on Friday if you'd like to stop by.
Okay.
Yeah, and Tony and Tamar will both be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you centralized yours to the central service desk for a single point of contact.
Yes.
So if somebody calls, and they have an issue in a room right now, that goes to the central service desk?
Yes.
Was there an effort to, we've tried to do that, we've had some issues with response time because it's kind of a specialized knowledge stack as opposed to the breadth of knowledge that they have. Was there a concerted effort to train them up on triaging?
Yes, and we do dispatch, so we can, we're located in the library, which is pretty centrally located. We can usually get one of our part-time staff out to a room within 5 minutes, maybe 10. The only thing is they're really only gonna be able to provide that level 1 support, right? To make sure they're, you know, everything's plugged in the proper place, pressing the right buttons, and maybe some minor troubleshooting. Occasionally we are able to send one of our full-time technicians, but you know, usually they're on another side of campus. It just doesn't make sense to send them. So we, our first line is really those part-timers.
Thank you. Holly, how do you want to just throw these?
Well, no. The first 3 people that are up here and interested in trying them, we'd love to get your feedback. So if somebody's interested in taking those back, working with your team, working with yourself, and you want to give us feedback, the first 3 people up here will hand those over. And maybe if somebody needs another one, we might be able to work that deal out.
Yeah.
So I take Venmo, no. No, but we are selling these, we're getting ready to sell these in our bookstore, so then they're available for you to purchase for your teams. But the big thing is that we are looking for feedback, and especially as we look into using these cards, and also what do they mean for AI, using AI. But the other thing that we found is that it's great for bringing groups of faculty together to be looking at their curriculum. We just received a request from social work, and as they're building their curriculum, their team is going to be working with these. So it's a chance to just move things around organically. I mean, there's something nice about holding a deck of cards and seeing where you have matches, and it's just so fun to see how people organize it, and there's no one way to do it. Some people are just into the activities and then like, oh, okay, we'll align that with the different types of learning. So we'd love to have 3 people come up and grab those. And then Niels, we're planning on, he's planning on maybe a year from now, we'll have a learning experience design symposium. So stay tuned for that. Thank you, guys. And a round of applause for the team that's here. Where are all the team players for DLT? Stand up. Oh, woo! Great. And behind the camera. Thanks all.
Oh, sorry I threw that out there like that.
No.
My mind's blank and I'm
Number 1.
Oh, number 1. Okay.
Okay. So good.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, and for your team.
Check on your gifts real quick. I want to make sure I'm giving you all the right things.